images up close. It's all been a PDF so far. Wow. Holy.
Like, it really felt like it split the difference between the Ripmo and the HD6 off of these sort of quick drops. All right, so people have been waiting a little while now for the release of a brand new Ripmo or Ripley, and guess what? Ibis has decided to drop them both on the same day. And each of them are both brand new from the ground up, and they definitely look good. But apparently Ibis has made some choices with these bikes that have never really been done before. And to find out what the heck that means, I am headed down to Ibis HQ in California, where I'm gonna get my eyes on the bikes for the first time, get some actual ride impressions on these bikes. And Ibis have promised you and I that they're gonna give us a behind the scenes look at how a pretty small team of bike nerds goes about creating this from this. Let's go.
Now, I've had a fairly, significant birthday recently, so when it came time to book a rental car for this trip, I decided to go for the full-on Californian midlife crisis mobile experience. And boy, am I glad I did. And boy, am I glad I... Boy, am I glad I did. I just love this car. I almost feel like it could be my entire new personality. But let's put a pause on that and go check out these new bikes. Okay, both the new Ripley and Ripmo have all new angular designs similar to the HD6, but both of these new bikes have a couple of extra tricks up their sleeves. They each have a flip chip at the linkage, which allows you to swap between a 29-inch or a 27.5-inch rear wheel. The Ripmo comes stock in a mullet configuration for small and medium sizes, whereas it's full 29 for all the sizes up from there. Whereas the Ripley comes in at a full 29 for all sizes from the factory, but of course you can do the flip chip and put in a 27.5 rear wheel if you wanted to. The travel for the Ripmo is pretty much the same at 160 in the front and 150 in the rear, although the HD6 style linkage apparently is going to add a lot more progressivity to the travel. And that's the same for the Ripley, which gets a pretty decent bump in travel front and back with 140 millimeters in the front and 130 in the rear. They've both got a slacker front end, with the Ripmo 3 now at 64.5 degrees, and the Ripley a 1.5 degree slacker, going from 66.5 down to 64.9, but we'll just call it 65. They both now have what looks to be pretty slick internal frame storage with 2 storage pouches made from remnant materials, and there are 5 sizes to choose from for both, including a new size called Extra Medium, which I'm sure will raise some eyebrows. And speaking of geometry, it's a pretty dynamic geochart with essentially every single number changing between every single size. And I've got some questions about that.
Okay, Ibis HQ. I have a lot of questions about these bikes, and I know you do too. And so my one job is to try and make sure that we actually cover all of those questions. This is Colin, and he is not only one of the people who was a massive part in engineering both of these bikes, but he's also a part owner of this company. So what better person to ask? All right, where do you want to sit up?
So Colin, why mountain bikes? Why bikes?
I took my first real mountain bike ride at 14 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, I went to engineering school to become a bike engineer. That was the entire plan. There was not much of a backup plan.
Go and try and find a negative review for the Ripmo or the Ripley. You're just not gonna find them. So after designing bikes like those, I would imagine there'd be a lot of pressure, a lot of weight on the shoulders going into a whole, from the ground up, brand new build for these things.
To take a whole new platform and try to recreate that magic of a bike that everybody loves is pretty difficult. You don't want to mess it up.
All right, see you in a bit.
Bye.
Oh gosh, and he's sprinting. Cool. Okay. Woo. Oh, nice one, Colin. Oh yeah, I'm a little bit more awkward than Colin for here. Whoa! All right, it feels proper. Whoa! Woo! Yeah. Oh, okay. standing and pedaling, feels like you're almost locked out in the back. It feels like there's more of a standing pedal platform than there was on the Ripmo, the previous one, which is saying something for anybody who's ever ridden one. There we go. Oh yeah. Whoa. It really felt like it split the difference between the Ripmo and the HD6 off of these sort of quick drops. Little like root drops. Yeah. Woo! So it felt more like smoothly supportive so far. I mean, there's a little bit of terror on that first run with half brakes, but
it's a little smoother and progressive all the way through.
Okay.
And so it just feels composed more often.
Like, what were the top things on the whiteboard? What did you really want to make sure you covered with these new builds?
Well, we wanted to get the geometry right for everybody, for every size all the way through. So they all felt the same and rode the same and were fun in the same way for everybody.
I'm a little bit over 6 foot. Beth is like 5'4", and we love our Ripmos, our V2s and V2Ss. But I realized the other day that really, her and I have never ridden the same bike before. Because certain things would get longer on the bikes, but other things wouldn't.
Right.
Whereas looking at the geo chart of these new bikes, there's a lot going on. And it seems like every single number changes for every single size. What's going on with that? Like, I even saw like bottom bracket height was changing for size.
We live in Santa Cruz and we don't have a lot of rocks, but we have a lot of corners. And so we like our bottom brackets to be very low.
But I have a lot of rocks.
Yes, but the thing I noticed is that I only got complaints about the bottom bracket height from tall people. But what I realized is that they were high centering, or the breakover angle wasn't good enough on their
Some good
size.
Overlander speak right there.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Yeah. Heights had to go up for them, but they didn't have to go up for everybody else.
Okay, interesting.
And so we calculated what that needed to be, and it was about 3 millimeters per size change. And so every bottom bracket height is different.
Sorry, construction zone. Nope, shouldn't do that.
Yeah. If you're really gonna get everybody the same experience, you gotta keep the weight balance of the bike, or the person on the bike, in the same spot relative to the wheels. A lot of people have been doing different size chainstays per size, but that alone is not enough. Fortunately, there's another way to do it. We can move the seat angle steeper. So what we got here is a bike where every size has the same seat angle. As the seat goes up for each size, the rider's center of mass just goes up in that same line and pushes them back over the rear axle.
Right.
And so that totally makes sense to need longer chainstays to account for that, to get everybody balanced. Mm-hmm. But you have to make the chainstays big jumps between sizes to make this all account for this much movement. This is the Ripmo 3 geometry, where as the sizes get larger, the seat angle gets steeper. And so, as you can see, they start just getting vertical on the larger sizes. And so we're stacking the CGs on top of each other without having to move the chainstays as much. For every degree steeper seat tube angle, it equals about 25 millimeters of chainstay length change.
This is a telltale section. On my V2 and V2S, front end would always want to lift just a little bit right here. Let's see. Nope. Definitely more planted. Like, that was a legit difference right there. That would be a little bit with the the chainstay length, and a little bit with the seat tube angle.
But you can't just do that on its own, because then the bike's just going to feel cramped on the larger sizes.
Okay.
So you got to move the whole front end forward. You keep the top tube length the same and push out the reach.
Okay, so as the seat tube goes steeper, the top tube moves.
Yeah, the top tube goes with it, the reach goes out. And so the reaches look pretty long on the XLs, but the top tube is gonna feel right. So if you're deciding which size you are, look at both reach and top tube.
And compare it to your previous bike?
Yeah, if you're comparing to your previous bike, don't just look at reach, look at top tube also.
Okay, that's fair.
You know, that's also why we have 5 sizes now, is because there were some pretty big jumps in reach.
So You guys invented a new bike size.
Yes, the extra medium.
The extra medium. You go onto any bike forum ever, the questions are always the same. I don't know, am I a medium or a large?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Everybody's in between
Now you're
sizes
like,
all the time. So-
extra medium.
Yeah, we created the extra medium because the larges were getting pretty long. We felt like we were leaving some people behind, and so we slotted that one in the middle.
Fair enough. Let's go then. Cool. About as rough as it gets in here. You pick it up so nicely. Whew. That was hairy. Surfing the black coal. Woo. Okay, so Ibis is known, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Ibis is most known for how it pedals.
Yeah.
Such a stable platform for pedaling, and then yet somehow on the downhills, oftentimes the travel numbers don't necessarily tell the whole story because it's very smooth, despite, you know, but the previous one was 147 mil, and the previous Ripley was what, 120?
Yep.
But they had this smoothness to them over the rough trendery stuff. And so you guys are known for that. Now you have these new models, and you have all these different sizes and chainstay lengths and all this kind of stuff. Everything is changing with every size.
A lot of stuff is moving around.
How do you deal with kinematics for all of these different sizes and different people?
It wasn't just a question of taking the same swing arm and moving it back and forth a little bit to change chainstay length.
Right.
Every size has unique kinematics. So you know, the way kinematics works is you're, again, working with the center of gravity of the rider, and as their seat goes up and down and their bottom bracket height goes up and down, you need to redo all that to make sure that everything is balanced so that when they get on the pedals, they're not bobbing around.
Is that a normal thing that is typically done in the industry, or not?
That's pretty new to do size-specific kinematics. But what that does is make sure that every frame size pedal is the same.
Right.
This frame is more progressive all the way through. It's smoother all the way through.
Okay.
And you know that just comes from having the same upper link as the HD6. Allows us to have a little more progression without a really long clevis.
Yeah. Just feel like having more progression on this bike suits it so well, because now you can, with, you know, a pretty normal amount of travel, nothing crazy, like 150, you have such a nice smoothness off the top, and then it just ramps up beautifully. Definitely feels like there's more overall support than any of the previous Ripmos. Oh man, this is it right here. This is so good on this bike. Woo! Go bopping off this little drop. Woo! Oh. See, like, I'm using, it was so easy to set this bike up. I just went by the chart, and usually that doesn't work. But ever since doing that, I haven't touched any of the settings. I might go one click faster rebound on the back, but otherwise, I'm using the exact amount of suspension I'd expect, and it feels unreal. Such a nice tune.
We just make the leverage ratio as good as it can be to make shock tuning easy. And then we make it pedal as good as it can so that we don't have to cover up pedaling issues with shock tune and put a bunch of damping band-aids on it. And that is why our bikes pedal well, but when you hit stuff, they open up because there's not a bunch of compression damping trying to control pedaling.
Right.
We've just taken it that next step further by doing that for every size individually to make sure it's right. Right.
So now it's like these really nice steps between XC, Ripley, Ripmo, HD6.
Yeah, and the people who wanted the lightest possible Ripley, they have the XC now.
Right.
So that let the Ripley get a little bit burlier.
And for the people who wanted the burliest possible Ripmo, now they have the HD6.
They have an HD6. So the Ripmo can go back to having a 36 and Float X on it.
Yeah.
Which makes it just a really versatile bike again.
All right. So what, out of the trails around here, What are your favorite trails? Of course, all very illegal, and we can't actually say any of these names. That might be a cop car. I'm just gonna slow down a little bit. What is it here, 55?
Okay, imagine if you will, you're the head designer at Ibis, and it's now time to create 2 new bikes from scratch. Engineering has locked in the angles and pivot points, and now it's on you to take it from there. But all you get is this, a few dots and lines floating in space. That's it, that's all you get to work from. Can you imagine how daunting that must be? Well, Roxy here doesn't have to imagine it, because that's what she's been doing for years. And while I try out the new Ripley for the first time, I wanted to chat with Roxy and Lily about what it takes to design iconic bikes for everybody, and what's been by far the most challenging part of creating these 2 new bikes. And the answer really surprised me.
Who are you two, and what do you do at Ibis?
I'm one of the 5 partners at Ibis, and I am the head of design.
And I'm Lily. I am doing industrial design as well as some graphic design and color design at Ibis.
Bike world is really traditionally like hands-on engineering, you know, like we make things and then we'll just pop it out of a mold, but like taking the time to do a few extra steps through design process of like putting things into Keyshot or putting things into VR. There's not a lot of time to make mistakes, you know? And so when you have the chance and the feasibility to like take the time to make mistakes or make surprises, and do it without consequence, it's pretty phenomenal. You don't actually understand something unless you can actually see it in 3D.
Oh my. Don't look at me. So what I'm seeing here in this moment, and we'll hopefully show you guys a screenshot, is, so on that screen it's just white in the back and then some lines. In front of me is a pretty much photorealistic frame, very large in front of me, and I am in the bottom of a canyon on a beautiful day. Oh, there's a waterfall.
In VR, like we've actually cut out the part where we used to make a 3D model of like, and like a few iterations of models, but we used to do it so that I would get a 3D model in like foam. I would sit there with the sanding pad and like a respirator and like sand away at it. But now I'm like, I can do it in VR. Like I can take the frame, I can like suppress nodes or push them and pull them. You have something that's very communicative and it's a lot faster, I think.
You pretty proud of the bikes?
Yeah.
I would imagine. I feel like any single possible nitpick that I have ever heard, you guys covered. Like literally everything. So
I'm sure someone will find something
I'm not
that we underlooked, but I'm sure we've actually thought about it.
ready. Let's do it. It's just like within that certain travel range. Within a certain travel range, it feels like all Ibises feel the same. Like in the first, I don't know, maybe like 80 mils, they all feel just as supple off the top. And then it's only, let's see, yeah, it's like only the last, I'm just kind of like purposely pressing in. And once you get past that part, that's when you feel the difference in how much platform there is between the bikes. But such a friggin' interesting thing how they managed to make, like, it's like a certain artist, when you see their work, you know it's that artist immediately. And I feel like if you were to get on some bikes blind, you would know it's an Ibis because of how smooth it is in the first little bit of travel. Ramps up nicely. Yeah, that's sick. Feels a little faster to turn. I'm on an extra medium instead of a large, with a 50 stem on this instead of a 35. Feels great. Whew. That was nice. Yeah. I think the suspension's pretty dialed.
Now, being a little over 6 feet tall, I have personally never had a problem finding a bike that fits me. But that is not always the case for everyone, and especially not for shorter riders. And Roxy, who is about a foot shorter than me, has been working hard behind the scenes for years now to change things for the better, and I wanted to hear more.
We started with 26-inch wheels, so it wasn't that hard to get standover.
Right, yeah, fair.
And when we started with 27 and then really quickly 29, there was like that mixture of both wheel sizes, and everyone was just like, they dropped 26. And so for people that of our shorter stature, like you really had a huge hurdle to get over to get everyone on a bike. One of our first models that was kind of in that realm was our Ripley, and it was supposed to be full 29er because, you know, we knew that the ride qualities of a 29er would be good. We knew that we wanted suspension, but maybe we couldn't have a lot. And once we started developing that, there was a moment where I was told that the way that the geometry was working and the kinematics were working, I wasn't going to have a size small. Like, I couldn't imagine designing a bike and not riding it. And I was livid. And I was like, there's gotta be a way we can maneuver something. I mean, I've seen those seat angles move on the geometry chart. Can't you make that happen a little bit more or something? When you have someone who cares a lot about a size or a thing, you just speak up for it more. So you're an advocate for that need or that desire.
Some of the companies' extra smalls have like a 2-inch higher standard height than our small. It's funny. Like we have
Wow. It's proof though. Look, proof.
Super slender so that we could get that extra standover.
There's a medium, and then this is the small here, and you can see the difference in tube sizes.
So the top tube is super slender so that you could eke out a little bit more standover height. But when you stand on it, and I have like 27 3/4 inseam, and I'm pretty much standing over it quite comfortably and not touching. I think we really try hard to accommodate and make things equitable. So it's just more fun for everyone to ride.
Yeah, and the current Ripmos, like the size small looks so sick. It looks sick. It looks cooler than some of the other ones, and it's like pretty uncommon that the brand size small looks just as cool, if not cooler than.
And like it has to be the same, or like there's a stamp of approval of some visual connection, and I think sometimes that is true, but it's also true to like, you know, be different once in a while. Even though the original Mojo was really swoopy, like the main thing was that it had volume and surfacing that was really interesting. And so regardless of like a kinked top tube or slender top tube, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever like we dream up. It's all about artistry. Like, so artists don't want to be the same thing. Like, you don't have like one-hit wonders. You want to have like a good anthology of design.
There's so much behind the scenes that has gone on between the beginning of the project to now. Is there anything that you would really, really want to highlight for people watching this? Like, this was so much work, and it may go unnoticed, but it really is a big thing.
I think Colin probably talked about this a bit already, but like the door looks like a simple add-on to a frame, but it's really not. It's like its whole own project.
For these bikes, what is the most difficult thing to design and engineer? The stow door.
Yeah, definitely.
In no particular order, because I don't remember the order. Flanges. Wow. Cardboard ones? Early prototypes.
Right. Then there's napkins before that. Bar napkins.
Yes.
Wait. Will I get it right first try? Hey! You know, I won't put this in, but I feel like every single person that went to go and use most of the other manufacturers' doors mess it up the first time, and it doesn't go well. So that says something. Like, actually. And then I would go like this. On. That's pretty good.
We worked hard on that.
How long did it take for you guys to hit the final design? From beginning to end?
I mean, as long as the rest of the frame. It was run as a parallel project with its own requirements and its own meetings and its own testing, and it was every bit as hard as the frame itself. So we took it seriously.
We had ideas that came from, you know, like camera parts and doors that, you know, use for everyday storage.
So you're pretty happy with the end result then? You got everything you wanted out
Yeah,
of it?
it's easy, it's intuitive, it doesn't rattle. You can use it with gloves in the cold.
Cheers for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They look like your little
The bulkhead that we decided we didn't need. It's a sloth from Ice Age.
Oh yeah, totally.
Doors and bags together were like a pretty big undertaking to do well and not just kind of do it, but we really wanted to like do it right if we were going to add a whole system on. It's a very constrained project because you're trying to fit your equipment inside of the bike frame and like find the right balance of what's realistic, what's still easy enough to use, whatnot. And so once we had our big list of constraints, we started sketching and prototyping and stuff. And so got a whole pile of sketches of just rough ideas of what the bags could look like, if they could be like kind of modular.
It's a lot of iterations.
Yeah. We wanted to make it easy to use in cold weather and with gloves on, so the bags and stuff have like bigger pull tabs, the handles are big enough. So we got 2 bags here. One of them is simple zip pouch. Lives right under the door. You can just put pretty much whatever you want in there. Got a little tube, my food, and dog treats. This one is, we call it our tool roll, and generally it lives a little higher up in the frame inside, and it's got a little more organization inside. Got a zip pouch for smaller items, and then here we've got elastic straps to kind of like cinch down any multi-tools or loose bits, and then pump. You can have it on top of the straps or underneath, depending how frequently you want to use it. The reason why all of these bags have different colorways inside is because Cotopaxi uses remnant materials from other projects and other companies even. So other companies will use the amount that they need for their project and then be done with it, and there'll still be some remnant fabric in a whole variety of colors. And so Cotopaxi takes the remnant material and has their manufacturers like kind of take the creative direction on matching different colors together. And
oh, that's cool. So a lot of people's bikes will have different colors on the inside.
everyone
will
Every
have-
single one. Oh, that's awesome.
There might be some like, you know, you might be able to find your twin out there.
Yeah.
There'll be some overlap, but
You'll have to ask at the trailhead.
and these
Oh, wow.
are just a small selection of bags, and so you can see there's all sorts of different things going on the outside. I've got more of a, you know, sunset vibe colorway. I got some blue and orange. Yeah, most people will have a unique bag, and it's because they all have, like, all the fabric came from a little bit of a different background, and
That's cool. What's the thing you're most proud of with those bags?
They don't rattle. Your stuff doesn't rattle inside.
Much appreciated.
That was one of the main things, like,
Can't rattle.
yeah, trying out other companies' bag systems and reading reviews and forums and whatnot. Like, certain bags do rattle if you just have, like, say just a multi-tool in the bag, because that's all you want to carry. You have to end up stuffing other, like a rag or gloves or whatever, just to like kind of deaden the noise. And I was like, that kind of sucks to have to like think about that. So I wanted to figure out a way to avoid that.
Having the inside pops of color is good so that you can actually see your stuff.
It's very evident that all of those decisions that you've made creating this bike come from you guys just being mountain bikers and wanting to optimize your own bike for your own ride. What are your favorite trails in the area?
I like riding more in this area. That's a newer one, and
I hear that's amazing.
I personally like to like it's my commute.
yeah.
Are those pretty legal though? No, not at all.
Not
Really?
legal. So
I
they'll
thought.
also be blacked out.
It's time for the burrito.
You know, we see these new products come out and it's just so very easy for us, for sure for me, to forget about or just not realize how much work and passion goes into every single little detail. And honestly, I've barely scratched the surface of what's gone into these 2 new bike releases. There's so much more. Like Tom painstakingly making sure that the decals on the new bar and stems line up perfectly from the factory for the easiest setup. Or like Nick developing a custom field tracking protocol so every single test mule bike comes back in for a meticulous inspection after an exact number of ride hours every time. Or Colin perfectly matching the ride qualities of the new 35mm clamp bar with the previous 31.8 version. Or Lily creating literally hundreds of colorway options before the ideal ones are chosen. This goes on and on and on and on, and it's been really cool to see all that hard work turn into these two incredible machines. I wish I could stay longer, but it's time to head home.
Hey,
Hey, so here's your bike.
well, but I'm headed home now.
Yeah, you can take it. It's yours.
Oh, I take it right now.
Yeah.
But just, you can keep that.
And hey, for the Canadians out there, for the first 3 people that order a complete Ibis bike from our bike shop partner, The Inside Line, we are going to include a bunch of Loam Ranger stickers and one of these very, 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 very limited edition Loam Ranger hats. We only made 10 of these things and the rest aren't for sale. So when you buy a complete Ibis, either online or in store at The Inside Line, just type in or tell them this code while you're purchasing the bike and we'll get you some free swag. And I'll just say it one last time in the video, go find yourself an Ibis demo event or just an Ibis bike to demo from your closest local shop. These new models really are quite sick, but you should go find out for yourself. So thank you to Ibis for having me out, and thank you for watching. Cheers.